Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us here at Hot 7 TV. Considerations are being made on the part of government for a second tranche of income support to citizens. So says Director of Implementation in the Office of the Prime Minister, Nancy Charles. In the hot seat on Wednesday, Charles said that once the government has fiscal space to do so, it will be able to provide some income support as the country continues to deal with economic hardships brought on by COVID-19.
As part of its social stabilization plan as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic, government back in April of 2020 unveiled an income support program to provide relief to those who had lost their income due to COVID-19. The support given at the time was not to replace one's salary, but was meant to soften the blow of COVID-19. Income support was given to NIC contributors. It also catered to those who were self-employed and were not contributors to the NIC scheme. That program has since been halted as St. Lucians went back to work, but with the reintroduction of scaling back of services, people are feeling the pinch again. Director of Implementation Nancy Charles says a second tranche is being considered.
The Prime Minister has been having discussions with the Ministry of Finance in terms of how can we provide a second tranche of income support. So I don't want us to forget the fact that between the months of April, May, June, July, and September last year, we did provide some level of support to various sectors of our society. We certainly will be looking at a second phase as to how much and what we can do, but it is under consideration. But you would appreciate as well that the government is now undergoing its budget exercise. So budgeting those activities is a little bit challenging, but I'm pretty sure once we get some fiscal space, we will be able to provide some support.
Charles was asked whether she thought that the government overreached the first time around.
You can never overreach because persons were suffering, persons did need that level of support. And I can tell you, even after we ended the income support, we still had a lot of calls from persons calling my office, calling the office of the Prime Minister, asking whether we're going to extend that support. We get calls daily of St. Lucians who still continue to ask for support. I'm very grateful to the Department of Equity. They have expanded the paupers list, what we call the paupers list. They've added 1,000 persons to that list. So that's an additional 1,000 persons we are reaching. They've also increased the amount of money that they were paying to them by $100. And so that in itself is going to provide a little bit of relief. We also have the electricity program where we're providing electricity support for persons who are unable to contribute or pay their electricity bill for a 6-month period.
According to the National Insurance Corporation, over $66 million was paid to NIC contributors as part of the economic relief program. Charles said that an additional $8 million was paid to non-NIC contributors. For the Hot 7 News, Nisha Charles reporting.
A former president of the National Consumers Federation is calling on government to begin the process again to legislate the Consumer Protection Act. Kingsley St. Hill says that in this current harsh reality, consumers should be treated better and get the most value out of their hard-earned dollar.
Consumers have been in limbo since 2016, when recommendations were made to amend the Consumer Protection Act of 2012. According to former president of the National Consumer Federation, Kingsley St. Hill, the last time that the act was actively looked into was in 2016 during a joint meeting of both houses of parliament along with relevant stakeholders. St. Hill says that since that meeting, there has been no work on the bill, and this is not at all fair to consumers, especially during recent economic hardships.
After that discussions, the bill was passed and became law number 9 of 2016. So that was in March 2016. The government, there was elections in June 2016, and a new government came into place. Since then, the government has not commenced the consumer protection legislation. So therefore, it's as if we have no law. No police cannot go to anybody and say under sections of the act. It's not operationalized. And that is very worrisome because you and everybody else would know that when I was president of the NCA, every year for World Consumer Rights Day, we had activities. We speak whenever I had the opportunity. I spoke about having consumer protection in this country.
He's calling on the Minister of Commerce to commence the Consumer Protection Act so that consumers would have a right to complain.
You still find signs about no refunds in shops in Castries. It happened to me, right? And the good thing, I knew my onions. That is why I was able to have the man to change the fan for me. I bought a fan that was not good, and the guy said, "Did you see the sign, no refunds?" I said, no, that is not for me. And therefore, I could understand the number of little persons who go out places and they get shoddy goods, poor services, and they have no recourse. And that law is there to protect those people. The worries that the chamber had, okay, Prime Minister Anthony had refused all of them. There were only two of the only points they had that were accepted by the meeting. And I still cannot understand how come we still have not commenced that act.
World Consumer Rights Day will be celebrated on March 15th, 2021. For the Hot 7 News, Nisha Charles reporting.
As St. Lucia continues to face an unrelenting third wave of COVID-19, once again the possibility of not being able to celebrate cultural events such as Independence Day and Carnival have resurfaced. Culture Minister Fortuna Belrose was asked whether she believes the pandemic is having an adverse effect on St. Lucia's culture. Belrose believes that despite the circumstances with COVID-19, the events can be kept viable and alive through virtual means.
As St. Lucia prepares for its 42nd independence anniversary, an array of virtual events have been scheduled under the theme, "A Resilient People, We Can, We Will." Given that many individuals have suffered massive blows to their livelihoods, Culture Minister Fortuna Belrose says the events that are planned for St. Lucia's independence should serve some reprieve to some creatives.
What we want to do is to provide opportunities for our artists and those persons around the industry, you understand, to still earn a living. And so that is why the government is committed to this. Despite the hard times that we are in, we're making something available to them so they too can feel comfortable and continue to feel that our society cares, about them in the way that we really should be, as a nation.
For the second time since the pandemic began in December 2019, there is a possibility that St. Lucians may not celebrate Carnival. The minister says the Ministry of Culture and Events Committee will remain on the ball to ensure that the St. Lucia Carnival brand does not die despite the effects of the pandemic.
I think it's very easy once we can continue to keep the programming relevant, particularly the virtual programming, and get people to understand and buy into the fact that it's our culture, it's what we have, it's who we are, it's how we celebrate. We just have to do so differently because the environment is different now. But I think clearly, even in the case of Carnival, we're talking about a virtual Carnival perhaps, and of course salvaging our brand because we need that brand out there so people can want to continue to come. So we have to just find the creative ways to do it. The world is different and we have to change with the times.
Belrose explained that she understands that the pandemic has had an impact on many individuals as they are highly social beings. However, she believes the social culture in St. Lucia will survive.
There is definitely an impact. And how we choose to see it is what's important in terms of our mindset, the perception that we have. As you know, COVID has decimated the way we relate, you understand, to people. It's saying to us we cannot engage in a way that we used to before. The hugging, the kissing, that has to be questioned. That is suspect now. We cannot do it as we would like to. But I think in terms of who we are as a people and of the mind, the determination to succeed, the will to succeed, we still can and we will if we put our minds to whatever we want to be able to do it.
While Independence 42 is a goal, many St. Lucians continue to wait to hear and see what will become of Carnival 2021. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzalez.
Martinique has gone ahead with its Carnival celebrations for 2021, although under very strict protocols and a completely different fashion from how it is normally celebrated. Here in St. Lucia, whilst no pronouncements have been made about the future of Carnival, the artistic director of a local Carnival band explained that COVID-19 has caused a huge dent in the sector, which may affect small bands for some time to come.
2 months into the new year, and there has been no official word as to whether or not Carnival 2021 in St. Lucia is cancelled or will be taking on another form. Neighboring island Martinique has gone ahead and decided that Carnival 2021 will happen, but under new parameters. Bands will be putting on a show and it will be streamed live on social media platforms. The celebrations will take place at the Pierre Alka Stadium from February 14th to 17th, 2021 every afternoon in accordance with barrier gestures, and no gatherings will be allowed in St. Lucia. The artistic director of Tribe of 12, Adrian Auger, was asked for his opinion on a scaled-down and local-only carnival celebration.
I could say very selfishly that I personally would love that. It would re-establish the viability of the St. Lucian Carnival as a St. Lucian festival. But I also have to acknowledge, and especially in my capacity as an executive member of the Carnival Bands Association, I have to acknowledge that will not work for everybody. There are member bands who rely heavily on incoming revelers to be viable. Whether you like that or don't like that, that is that's a commercial fact. So while I would love to see a carnival that reestablishes itself as a St. Lucian festival that is viable within the context of the local population, that formula is not going to work for a lot of people.
Auger, however, maintains that this would only happen depending on the situation of the country in its battle with COVID-19. He says every other country has their own circumstances and no two islands should be compared. He, however, indicated that what is needed in St. Lucia is proper consultation.
So I think what needs to happen right now is for there to be a meaningful dialogue with the government of St. Lucia to see how resources can be found. One, to help bands who have had difficulties meeting their 2020 obligations, and going forward into 2021, some kind of base, some kind of foundation, so that you don't fall through even further into the depths of debt and difficulty if the 2021 carnival has to be pulled back for health reasons. Without that conversation, I am not sure that we can make much progress based on hope and optimism and goodwill. We need to really have the conversation.
He says the impact of no carnival or any of the national activities leading up to the two-day revelry cannot be ignored.
It's a big hole in the cultural calendar and also in the business calendar, because carnival is business for a lot of people. But the objective reality is that would not be in the best interest of the greatest number of citizens. So I think that's a responsible decision to take. And also, the important thing to remember is that you need definitive information to plan. Carnival is not a 2-day event. Carnival is a 6-month planning horizon leading into about 10 days or so of heightened activity. Unless you have definitive information, certainty, you cannot go out there promising people what you are not sure that you can deliver.
Let's take a quick look at what format Martinique's Carnival 2021 will take. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Janice Gonzalez.
Stay tuned in because we have more after this break.